First of all, Rajiv, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. And in terms of Hindu phobia and also internalized Hindu phobia, as he was talking, actually, when I was trying to get people to join, a lot of people were hesitant because they were afraid as being seen as competition for other religions. They saw themselves polarized versus other religions, and I thought this was very unfortunate because they see themselves as a problem when in reality, we're just trying to promote mutual respect. We're trying to bring a different perspective, a dharmic perspective, which is inclusive, Vasudeva Kutumbakam, right? So I thought it was problematic that the Hindu community themselves is very almost scared and fearful of trying to advocate and trying to be proud of their identity. And I really hope we can get some help in trying to combat some misconceptions people have about their own faith, which is very crucial to this.
I think a large issue is that a lot of people on my campus, the Bridgewater Raritan High School, deny Hindu phobia existing, and many of the Hindus there do not even know anything, let alone any sort of push narrative by either viewpoint of the Kashmir issue. And so I think that what needs to be done is essentially, as Arushi was saying, education, basically. We have to educate people about what their faiths were based off of. And while we can't ourselves push a narrative, I think we should be encompassing of all. That's why we are a pan-Hindu organization. We should be encompassing of all Hindu ideals. Any sort of Hindu ideals we should accept. And I think that going off of that, right, to fix Hindu phobia, we have to recognize who we are first. And then I think everything will fall into place.
So it's also educating ourselves before you can educate other people. And if you're not educated, then you're not assertive enough, you're not confident enough to represent and challenge somebody else. That's part of the problem. And you don't have adult support. You don't have support from active parents, activist parents who will go and line up and raise hell. You don't. And another interesting thing is a lot of the faculty that are Hindu phobic play a very important role. I mean, a student is there for a few years and he'll graduate and he's gone, and then you're recruiting another set of students to take over. But the faculty is there for 30 years. And so we haven't had success in getting good Hindu faculty in these universities to be the backbone. What do you say about that? Why is it that there are plenty of Hindus who are in these engineering colleges and medical school and whatever, they're all teaching there, and they're very secure. It's like they have tenured jobs. They're very senior people. Nobody's going to fire them. If somebody is a very accomplished scholar, scientist, whatever, he's a famous person, they are very obliged and very happy to have him work there. And if he were to stand up and say, listen, in addition to all this, I also have a faith, and I don't think you guys are representing it properly, they're not going to touch him. It's only his own inferiority complex or his own whatever, something like that. So do you guys want to comment on that?
So I agree this is a huge problem, and this is part of the reason why I decided to pursue academia in the first place. I think one of the contributing factors to why there isn't a robust Hindu voice on campus is that a lot of these faculty, as you pointed out, are in the engineering schools. They're not in the social sciences and they're not in the humanities. The two departments and the two areas, the fields of study that really study society and develop narratives around different types of identities. So a lot of the Hindu phobic faculty members that we've been talking about are specifically in those areas. And I think Hindu faculty members in the engineering departments and in the sciences departments, there are a few of them that take positions, of course, but I think a lot of them are hesitant to go beyond the scope of their very limited fields of study. And I think a lot of it then comes down to having Hindu faculty members in these social sciences and humanities fields so that they can give the dharmic perspective on all the different issues that are being studied, whether it's specifically Hinduism, whether it's Indian politics, whether it's international relations. Why hasn't there been studies done? We had a discussion with you about, Chanakya, right? Why isn't there a discussion about Kautilyan politics and his philosophy about international relations, right? So all of these are issues that we as a community need to take up. And I think this constant pushing Indian children to pursue law, engineering, and science, and not pursue the narrative-making fields of humanities and social sciences is also contributing to us losing the narrative in academia, unfortunately.
I just want to build off of what you said before about lack of courage, and I observe that within my own generation. And I think it's because we don't see that within our older community members. When you're new to this country, when you move to the States, I experienced being beaten down by my peers who ridicule me for my beliefs and ask me really insensitive questions. And I noticed my parents were asked the same thing, and they tried to teach me to assimilate into American culture as best as I can and blend into the background and not mention anything about being Hindu, about being of Indian origin. And when I came to college, I wanted to change that so badly, and it took me several months to find a faculty advisor for Hindu Students Council, because a lot of the professors at my school who were in the math department, the science department, they didn't want to publicly admit that they were Hindu. Even though I knew them personally, they didn't want to put their name on a piece of paper acknowledging that. But fortunately, I did find one advisor at my school who is an inventor and attributes his success to Hinduism. So I think it's really up to us to just go out and find those people.
Who's that person?
His name is Dr. Yogi Goswami,
And what is his field?
biochemical engineering, I
Okay.
believe. Yes. So I really think it's up to us to
Very good.
just go out and find those people, because they are out there.
If you are in some field which is not in the humanities, say engineering, physics, computer science, medicine, you're less vulnerable because your career depends on your publishings in those fields. If you're a computer scientist and you're in some computer science, academic panel and you're writing books and all that, then whatever they may think of you about your views on Hinduism, it's not going to affect your computer science career. That is absolutely true. If you're in med school and you are a professor and you're doing important work, you'll be evaluated strictly on that. So the argument of taking a career risk is actually not so applicable to a person who is in one of those fields. And especially Indians are doing very well in those fields and they're very secure. I think it's more a kind of complex. They don't want to face it. They don't want their peers to sort of make fun of them. They're not willing to stick their neck out for their tradition. So that is what intellectual kshatriyata is all about. Being able to stick your neck out, fight the good fight, and do it as a cause rather than what's in it for me.
Rajivji, I'd like to add as well that there is a significant issue on campus of cultural appropriation. The majority of young people are liberally minded, and essentially look at several types of cultural appropriation and are cognizant of that. However, yoga is one of the most significant commodities that has been exploited for the purpose of that appropriation. So I've dealt with liberal, individuals who are sensitive to the needs of minorities. However, when it comes to the topic of yoga, which so many consume, they're just unable to make that connection. And I believe that while they hold some responsibility, I believe that the onus is really on us to take it back. And we have not, had that wherewithal. We haven't had that backbone or the background, like really the basis of knowing what yoga really truly is, where it truly comes from, and to be able to hold a match up to that. And that's something that I'm personally very passionate about. And it's obviously not just on college campuses. There's fashion trends on college campuses. There are fashion trends that are appropriated. There are really negative things as well in terms of portrayals of our holy symbols and deities on toilet seats and on footwear, etc. And so HSCS took a stand on those in the past. However, I think as a community, you mentioned some very interesting things in your videos that have been very helpful, especially the mind sciences, the appropriation of mind sciences, which is one of my all-time favorite videos. Additionally, you mentioned that the Chinese have held on tighter and really maintained control of the knowledge distribution. So that's something that you've put very aptly that we failed to do, and I see that pretty day to day.
Excellent point. Yoga, of course, is well known, a case of this appropriation. Meditation came with the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi and a few other people who brought it in the 60s. It was there before, but on a very large scale they brought it. And it went viral. It's all over the place, and it's being digested into non-Vedic frameworks, losing some of its qualities, losing some of the power. by diluting it and secularizing it too much and making it more like generic. That's where the mind sciences research that we are doing comes in. There are a lot of other things like, this is primarily a meat-eating society, and now vegetarianism is cool. It's actually, you're not considered some weird guy, but actually a very liberal person. So if you look at a whole lot of things of that sort, you will find the history of vegetarianism in the European context started with the British experience in India. There's a lot written on that. So there are cool things in the liberal Western lifestyle which are not attributed to Hinduism, which are not being attributed to Hinduism, and they're being decoupled and separated. And so you are meanwhile branded in negative ways. So that's the problem I see, and that worsens the plight of those who don't want to stand up and admit, and they want to deny that they belong to this identity because it's got so much baggage. It's got so much baggage, and it's very interesting that Islam, with all its baggage, is able to produce very assertive Muslims. It's very interesting that Muslims can assert themselves very, very confidently, and they don't they're not shy. Why is there this burqa, or why there is this practice or that practice? And they won't take any nonsense. So there's also something to do with maybe the way they're raised is more tough from childhood, and maybe the way we're raised is a different set of priorities. So maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I feel like it is a difference in the way that Hindu kids are raised versus maybe Muslim or other kids of other religions, where I feel like Hindu parents are a lot focused more on academics, and they want their children to be well off in their professional lives, and they don't pay much attention to teaching them about Hindu values and why we do the things we do. For a lot of kids that join the Stony Brook chapter, like, they would ask their parents, why do we do arti, or what is the reason behind different rituals? And their parents didn't have the answer or just didn't bother to tell them. So that was something that they really enjoyed learning from us. And I think if we had those teachings from childhood, then we would be able to be more assertive, we'd be more confident in our religion and be proud of it.
People like the Chinmaya Mission, I've told them so many times, Swami Narayan, Chinmaya Mission, they should start a chapter in every, why don't they start campus chapters? Maybe they don't make money out of it, and maybe it's as simple as that. But they have the wherewithal, they have the management, they have the curriculum, they have clout. Each of them should say, okay, I'll adopt 10 university campuses, and each of them could adopt 10 campuses, these very big organizations, Hindu organizations, and show up on those campuses, put some people there, put some money into it, negotiate with the authorities, give the students some empowerment. Why not? Why doesn't that happen?
And I mean, we as HSC, and I am a product of Chinmaya Mission myself, and one of the beauties of HSC is also one of our biggest curses is we want people from all of these different traditions to come into HSC and help start chapters with whatever programming they might feel comfortable with. So as an example, at Rice, we started an HSC chapter last year, and before we started the chapter, we reached out to, there was a Gita club that was essentially a Chinmaya Mission group. It was 2-3 Chinmaya Mission students that would get together and read Gita once a week, right? And we tried to get that group a little bit bigger to encompass all Hindu students. And the challenge we had was they really did not want to branch out from the one tradition that they knew, which was what they learned in Chinmaya Mission, right? So while it would be fantastic to see Chinmaya Mission, Swami Narayan, all these groups exist on campus, the challenge is, one, getting kids outside that tradition to join, and then secondly, once that group is established, how do we get those kids to do more than just what they might be doing at home, which is pujas and arti and going to the festivals? How do we make them become intellectual kshatriyas? And sometimes those traditions aren't willing to take a stand on that, right? So that's one of the struggles that HSC has, but it's also something that we're very adamant that we want to get done is, bring these traditions on board.